Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to present to you sports reporter Scott Davis. Scott, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So, we're both guys, we're into sports media. So how did it all start for you? What made you want to get into sports media?
I started in college, so this is around like 2010 to 2014. I uh, I got onto Twitter. I've always been a big Knicks fan, which I see you are as well. Big NBA fan, and I was just really inspired by like the all of the individual Knicks blogs that existed at that time, and obviously Twitter was well established and sports Twitter was a thing, but it felt like NBA Twitter in particular was its own like entity separate from it. And this was really like almost the golden time of it. So I started my own Knicks blog on Blogspot while I was in college, which feels like such an ancient platform now. Um, and then that I mean, it did okay. It wasn't like anything crazy, but I got an offer to write with Fansided, which I think is owned by Sports Illustrated now. I was on their website called Buckets Over Broadway, and then from there I started writing for SB Nation's Knicks blog, Posting and Toasting, and that took me through the end of college. And I just started applying for sports writing jobs, and I landed at what was then Business Insider on their sports page. So yeah, it was just kind of like gradual steps up in the blogging world, I suppose.
So you graduated from York College at Pennsylvania, class of 2014, BA in writing, minor in marketing. Since I'm on Fat-Sided for about a year and change now, Buckets Over Broadway, what teams did you cover there? What team do you cover there? Or, was it strictly basketball or a different sport? Tell me about Fan-Sided and what it means to you that you were there for 2 years.
Yeah, at the time it was just their Knicks blog, and it was pretty like it was pretty open to just writing whatever people wanted. We took pitches. I wrote a lot of game recaps and like analysis on Knicks players and trades and stuff like that. Yeah, I was there for 2 years, and then I also became like co-editor there, and that was a good experience because that was like editing other people's work, accepting pitches from other bloggers, trying to recruit some folks who were similar to me, a lot of college age writers, just looking to get their thoughts on the team out. Yeah, it was very like casual, but it was great. I was there when it got. I'm sorry, I actually don't even know. Is it still owned by Sports Illustrated, or is it's Fansided its own thing now?
I think it's his own thing now. I mean, I was caught by a guard when you mentioned Sports Illustrated because I wasn't entirely sure about that, but I think it's his own thing now. I mean, you were there way before I ever was, so
Yeah,
times. I mean, if a lot can happen in 1 year, I mean, a lot can happen in. I mean, yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since you were last on fan side, but I
yeah,
feel like it's his own thing now. Yeah.
yeah. So when I was writing there, I was just doing this while I was in college, so it wasn't like I was going to an office or anything like that. But they were acquired by Sports Illustrated, and I guess maybe now they separated. But so yeah, that was kind of cool because all of a sudden Sports Illustrated would occasionally like aggregate fan-sided blogs like onto their page, so you would see, even though you wrote for like what was Buckets Over Broadway at the time, it would like sometimes appear on like Sports Illustrated's Knicks page. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean it was just a great place to get started and try out different types of writing, casual, more formal, whatever. It was great.
What do you think about Josh Hart, staying with the Knicks for 4 more seasons? I feel that it was a solid signing because he was tremendous ever since he came to the Knicks last season. For most of us, we did not expect the kind of season that the Knicks were having, especially Jalen Brunson, who I believe proved a lot of people wrong to think that he couldn't lead that team, which he did. So far, I feel that he's a better leader than Julius Randle. and the way he handles the media well so far. So my question to you is two questions. Number one, what do you think about Josh Hart and his contributions? And number two, where do you see the next season in terms of seedings?
Yeah. So first on Hart, I was glad they re-signed him. You know, his addition helped to change the season. They were already on an upward trajectory, but I should think shortly after he arrived, I could begin these wrong, but I feel like they went on one of those like 9 game win streaks. Um, he just like I joked around about it on Twitter during the playoffs. That I was like, if you were not that familiar with Josh Hart's game, you know, I had seen him play before, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. You don't realize this dude's like one of the most impactful players in the NBA just with his hustle, his rebounding. He's a decent shooter. I wouldn't call him a great shooter, but he can knock down threes. Just the hustle plays. You know, there's so many little moments late in games that I feel like he won them for the Knicks. So I was glad they stayed, and that's a bargain of a contract. I think it's like 58 million of it is guaranteed. In a world where players are signing $300 million contracts, that is not going to be very prohibitive on the Knicks in the next 3 years. In terms of where they'll go this year, I kind of see them sticking around the same win range, maybe like 45 to 48 wins there. It's I'm a little torn because on one hand, I feel like they won a lot of close games last year. You know, there's a lot of nail biters where they pulled it down in the stretch, and that usually suggests that they might regress next season. You know, a few of those bounces go the other way, and another team wins. On the other hand, that team had great chemistry. There, it's another year together. Like they're a deep team. Like you could easily be paying or playing like a 10-man rotation, which I don't think they will, but like they're very deep. Um, so sometimes that could also mean I wouldn't be like totally shocked if they won 50 games, but yeah, I just think there's a definite ceiling on this team as much as I like them. And I think Knicks fans like love this group. I would put them right again at 47, 48 wins, probably fourth, fifth seed or something like that.
Business Insider, you've been with them for 8 years as a sports writer. What is it like to work for Business Insider for all these years? And I know it's been 8 years, but from the top of your head, which story you feel that impacted you the most, or that you felt that you've wrote, or that you've done your best work?
Yeah, well, uh, I was working there up until June. Unfortunately, no longer working there, but still, it was a great 8 years. Yeah, I saw that company just grow like crazy while I was there. Yeah, it started as Business Insider, and I started in 2014. They rebranded to Insider years later. I forget when that happened, but it was great. I learned a lot about reporting, which I didn't study in college. It was just like hitting the ground running on going to games, going to events, talking to people, calling people, emailing, reach out. Like it was a crash course in that. Got to write a lot about the NBA and learn and meet different people within the league and around teams. So it was great. The story that probably impacted me the most in I forget what year this was. I want to say 2016, maybe 2017. I profiled Chris Brickley, the NBA trainer. I to my knowledge, he had never there hadn't been a profile written on him. This is when he was working really closely with Carmelo Anthony, the Hoodie Mello era. Um, and yeah, I spoke to him and kind of wrote the story of like how you know he was a little played college basketball player and how he made connections with the Smith family through J.R. Smith, and that's how he kind of became friends with Mello and started training him. And I kind of wrote about his rise, and I went to watch him work out with Ennis Cantor at the time, now Ennis Freedom, but he yeah, I watched him do a workout with Chris, and at the time he was getting calls like after that workout from big name players. He wouldn't tell me who, but um, he told me about his interview with Phil Jackson when Phil Jackson took over the Knicks because Chris was on the training staff for a little while with the Knicks, and that was just really cool because I got to watch this guy who's now become like a big name within the NBA do his thing, and um, there's a couple of interesting little anecdotes within that story that I know places like CBS and the New York Post and a couple other places pulled and wrote their own stories based off of. So I got a lot of great feedback on that story. A couple of people in the NBA or in the NBA world reaching out to me wanting similar profiles. So that's kind of that always sticks out in my mind as like my favorite thing I've done there.
That's awesome. So give me at least three athletes, retired or that they're still playing, could be from any sport, that you would love to interview one day.
Ooh, okay. I mean, LeBron James has to be on the list. He basically doesn't do interviews anymore, but he's the NBA player of the last 20 years. It's like to get an opportunity to if I ever did to sit down and talk with him would be great. Who else? One that sticks out to me. This is going to be for a guy who covered the NBA, and we've been talking about the Knicks. This one's going to be off the walls. I would love to interview Katie Ledecky, the swimmer. Her feats in the swimming pool are just unbelievable, and since this is a sports media thing, she's very media trained and very polite and proper with her answers. It'd be great if you got to open her up and really hear how she approaches her training and competition and stuff. I think I saw something like she owns 29 of the world's 30 fastest times in the 400 meter, 800 meter freestyle. I mean, that's just nuts. So that would be a cool one. And I'm trying to think of a retired athlete that would be great to interview. Um, I thought I was going to get a chance to briefly chat with Michael Jordan last summer while he was promoting his tequila brand, and he couldn't make it at the last moment. So, if I went with LeBron James, let's go with the other goat. Well, I'll take sitting down with Jordan would be pretty cool.
Not a bad list. So last but not least, where can we follow you in your work?
Well, like I said, I'm between jobs right now. Still looking for a sports reporting job, but in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at W Scott Davis, or I suppose on LinkedIn. If any employers are listening to this, you can find me on LinkedIn at William Scott Davis. And yeah, hopefully I'll have some new stuff coming soon.
All right, guys, I'll put the information down below in the description. Um, man, congratulations. I mean, you have a superb resume so far. I have no doubt that any other job that you'll get will be much better. It's all about continue to climb the ladder. So, Scott, thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me, and best of luck on everything going forward.
Thank you, sir. And likewise, thank you for having me. I'm glad to talk to you.